What is the most disturbing thing to know? Flies don't have teeth. So, when they land on your sandwich and want to eat some, they barf up the contents of their stomach, often containing another animal's shit, so the digestive enzymes can get on the food and then they eat. There are 32 missing nuclear weapons. And those are only the ones that we know of. There are guys with a fetish to cut off their penises. There's even a subreddit dedicated to it. I found out about it a few months ago and it still haunts me. In my country, some women rent babies to beg money with in the streets. They make them drink a pill that would make them sleep. Anything can happen to anyone at any moment. I had my first seizure at 18. No family member has had epilepsy before. Never take anything for granted. It can all change in an instant. Often, burnt bodies are found in the same stance, known as the boxer pose due to muscles contracting from heat. It's an incredibly disturbing looking thing. I first heard about it from my grandfather that fought in Burma. During the war he was present at a Burmese funeral in which the cadaver was burned on a pyre. Just as the flames began to singe the corpse, it sat up straight. The Burmese, of course, got a good laugh out of the British soldiers collectively shitting themselves, as contractions due to heat during cremation is apparently rather common. Doesn't make it any less creepy. Cyanide poisoning is an incredibly painful way to die. Cyanide was what Jonestown consumed for mass suicide. Parents were instructed to give it to their children and convinced the crying was just fear. Edit, for those asking about how cyanide works. If memory serves from when I first read this and listened to the audio recordings, it feels like a massive heart attack. It may not have taken too much time, but any time greater than instant is too long to suffer before death. Sarin gas is one of the worst ways to kill another human being, and we have seen multiple instances where it has been used on innocent people. Whether relaxed or contracting, your muscles need certain signals in order to function. When you flex a muscle, a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine floods the muscle cells, telling them to contract. Your brain eventually tells the muscles to stop contracting, and so that acetylcholine has to be removed. This is done with acetylcholinesterase, an enzyme which breaks it down and allows your muscles to relax. This happens for every movement of every muscle in your body, whether you're flexing your bicep or blinking, every beat of your heart. Sarin kills because it bonds with acetylcholinesterase, completely changing its structure and rendering the enzyme useless. This means your muscles never relax, they flex harder and harder and harder. Your entire body can cramp, your pupils, everything. The burning gets worse and worse, and the pain is unbearable. If enough of it enters the bloodstream, usually via skin, it will lock up your diaphragm and you will asphyxiate. It kills quickly, but I struggle to imagine too many things that would be worse than dying from cramps in muscles you didn't even realize existed. It's not the worst weapon humans have at their disposal, as if you survive a sarin attack, you're likely to make a full recovery as it doesn't scar lung tissue, like other chemical weapons. That being said, it's still classified as a weapon of mass destruction, and is supposed to be banned. Adding the wiki for sarin for anyone interested. Bachabazi. The horrendous practice of having a dancing boy, aka child sex slave, in some regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. When families are poor, they will sell their child to be a dancing boy. The children are frequently killed if they resist. It's a rough watch, but the documentary The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan covers this awful practice pretty well. Pelicans are some of the most demonic birds in existence, if not some of the most demonic creatures. Pelicans will go into other birds' nests, shove the parents out of the nest. They will then swallow babies whole, fly back to their own nests, and regurgitate the still half alive, partially digested babies, to their own babies for them to consume. Some pelicans are literally raised on the partially digested, living flesh of other baby birds. If you try to grab the brain in its natural state, it will fall apart. When you see scientists pick up the brain, they have used chemicals to harden it. 1/3 of all people who break their hip die within the year. So please tape pillows to your elderly relatives. One aspect of foster care. Some people will take their child to a doctor. Child gets diagnosed with cancer. Child goes to first appointment. Kid gets wheeled back for treatment. Parents then leave, go home, pack and disappear. The kid is in the treatment waiting room, waiting for parents that will never ever come. Sick and facing death alone. It doesn't happen a lot, but enough to have processes in place. The worst is when they are like 4, although a 7-year-old was also rough. Edit whoa. Lots of comments, so we'll try and go through some. Also, it's biological parents that abandon them at the hospital. But foster parents do too. especially if the first foster parents are relatives that were strongly asked to foster. Polar bears are the only bear species that actively hunt and kill humans for food. There's a rhyme that everyone living where bears live needs to know, and why the rhyme is so important. If it's brown, lie down. Brown or grizzly bears will leave you alone if you play dead. Climbing up a tall tree works with adult brown bears, since they can't climb trees. If it's black, fight back. Black bears will back off when they realize you're more of a threat than they realize, but do not climb a tree to escape. Both cubs and adult black bears can climb trees. If it's white, say goodnight. Polar bears are not only the largest bears, but they are ambush predators. If one manages to sneak up on you, you're as good as dead. The best you can do to escape is either run and drop your clothes. Fortunately for you, they have very short attention spans and they'll stop momentarily to sniff at your clothes because it's not normal for their food to suddenly drop something like that, or start praying to whatever deity you believe or don't believe in. Edit, this is all advice for if the bear decides to try and kill/eat you. Generally speaking, if you do come across a bear, you never, ever run away. Stand your ground, make yourself look big and be loud. If the bear stands on its hind legs, it's just checking you out, it's curious and has likely never seen a human before. The best option is to back away slowly while maintaining eye contact, still being loud. If the bear decides to charge, use an air horn or bear spray, which will likely cause to run off. I would too if I just got maced. However, as a last resort, use a gun or other weapon if it becomes aggressive or starts mauling. One of Mayhem's band members committed suicide. When he was found by his bandmate, pictures were taken and it became the new album cover. The photographer was subsequently murdered by Varg Vikernes, who masterminded church burnings. The CPR dummy face template is based on a dead 16-year-old girl's face. Her body was pulled from the River Seine in the 1880s and her cause of death and identity were never discovered. A mortician was so entranced by her peaceful expression that he made a plaster mask of her, which became the face of CPR dummies and health training equipment. So hundreds of millions of people have kissed the face of an anonymous dead girl in the last 150 years. That it takes 3 generations for you to be completely forgotten. Think about how you viewed your great-grandparents. Sure, you probably love them, but for most people their great-grandparents die and are forgotten as you live your life. One day that will be all of us. Disappearing into the void, none to remember who we were, what our life was like or what we believed in. That if you have ALS, you're more than likely going to suffocate to death. My mom used to work for this elder gentleman who suffered from ALS. One day she gets a call that he's passed away in his apartment. From what she told me, she walked in and his eyes were wide open and his mouth was open, permanently left gasping for air. ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that causes people to lose control over their nerves over time to the point of near vegetative state. Most people don't last very long once diagnosed because they lose the ability to expand their chest to breathe and pretty much choke to death. That sadder thing about it that you could be fully awake when this happens and have no way of stopping it. The value of a human body. There is value to the human body as a commodity. And different parts of our body are worth different amounts. While corneas are small, they fetch a large price, £15,000, or about $22,450, whereas our skeleton garners significantly less, £5,000, about $7,483. The price also depends on whether the body part is sold for specimen use, transplants, or on the black market. The mineral value of our body is like $3 bucks. Edit, on the brighter side, I would add that this is what motivates me to believe we can achieve something great as individuals as well as part of a team. We are just a bunch of cheap, easily purchased minerals, yet that is hardly all we are. You cannot prove that anyone else is real. The only thing you know for sure is you are conscious. That there are parents out there that willfully sell their children into sex slavery or force them into prostitution. If an elephant's mate dies, then they can die from broken heart syndrome. That slavery is still one of the biggest profiting trades in the world. The youngest person to ever give birth was 5 years old. Lena Medina. Just think of what happened to the poor girl. For every 1 human cell in your body, scientists estimate there are 1 to 10 non-human cells. AKA lots of little microorganisms living inside you. If we see a life-threatening meteor is going to strike us in a few years, we probably, at least at the moment, couldn't do anything about it. They've had training simulations with this exact scenario, and they only got it right like 10% of the time. They need more like 10 years to reliably and consistently stop it. Babies don't have kneecaps. That at some point, You will hang out with a group of close friends for the last time, and not even know it. You'll assume there will be a next time, but that's it. Thank you for watching Reddit Stories. May you and your loved ones have a blessed day.